What's up, everybody? I am back with another reaction video. I'm pretty sure I've done a video of Echo Chamberlain before, but it's been a while. But I'm back with another video I thought would be very interesting, talking about revisiting its history in terms of like media putting out period pieces or whatever movie set in a particular time period and just injecting certain races and cultures that shouldn't be in it when it comes to like a backdrop where it wouldn't make any sense for them to be in there. And so before I get into it, please do me a huge favor and like this video. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think of the video, as well as follow me in the links in the description below, such as my Twitch and YouTube channel, as I stream video games, review content, as well as react to videos. And without further ado, let's get right into it with Echo Chamberlain's video. A grown-up conversation about diversity, myth, and history. For all, especially people who are super into DEI, should watch this video.
An independent review commissioned by the BBC has found that the over-representation of ethnic minority characters, especially in period dramas, can feel clunky, inauthentic, and preachy to the viewer. It concludes, the BBC should aim for an organic and authentic approach to diversity, rather than it looking forced or tick box. Maybe the most interesting aspect was the authors stating, "We found our interviewees of colour as emphatic on this point as those who were white." Non-white people in the BBC's own internal review felt progressive identity politics was contrived and played out. The BBC's own report shows there was institutional pipeline pressure. Commissioning executives, DEI officers, and internal targets created a structural incentive to cast diversely, and directors and writers didn't always have creative buy-in. The BBC report explains how the mindset became policy, but I want to show what was driving ahistorical diversity and race swapping in historical drama.
However you book, first check Kayak to search hundreds of travel sites at once and compare hotel prices to find a great...
Yeah, it is incredibly annoying. It's nothing but tick boxing.
And as every
Just to get like certain nominations in whatever BS award show that's pretty much like circle jokes at this point. But in order to make sure they get like recognition, nominees, or to get more funding for other projects, they gotta do this glorified like tick boxing in order to appeal to a certain audience that they shouldn't have to appeal to, because this is only gonna hurt people in the long term. Other studios are trying to look at like the short term gain, but now it's like it's only hurting them. Look at Starfleet Academy. Look at Star Wars The Acolyte. That's like all short-term gain in the initial production run, or even in the writer's room. And now they are getting massive backlash over it. And you can't keep blaming, oh, they're just racist or misogynist. No, because this is inauthentic. And people are smarter than you give them credit for, and we pick up on it. Sometimes maybe not right away, but eventually we pick up on that kind of crap. It's like, this is BS. You look at something like Bridgerton. I don't watch that show, but I know of it, and I thought it was stupid from the get-go. It's like, why are you casting black people in a particular time period in Europe where most of these people would not be in the positions that they're in? Not saying there wouldn't be black people in this particular era, but at best they'll probably working at like shoe shines, or working at like tailors, or nurses at most, or working in libraries. They wouldn't be aristocrats. Far from it. And if you really want to hear like a sad truth, a lot of them will be servants. It's a sad truth. It's terrible. Don't, like, I'm not saying I'm advocating for that kind of stuff, but that would be like the honest truth of that matter.
rationale acknowledged and broken down. The argument from persona over character. The mindset here is that casting can be colorblind
this is-
because
this woman, like I only see like a little bit of Vikings, but it was way before this character was introduced. It was way before, like I just kind of fell off of the entire show altogether. But when I heard they introduced a black woman in a role depicting a Viking leader who's supposed to be like a white male, I kind of just grimaced because you hear these apologists or shills that are doing backflips trying to excuse this, like, oh well, Vikings, they sailed all over the place, they would have, wouldn't be a stress, they would have gone to Africa and saw some black people. And it's like, no, stop it. Is a set in a particular time period where the vast majority would be, if not all, white. You don't let white people have their stuff, man. You can, and like, you would not, I know you don't like this comparison, or you might disagree with this comparison, but it's an apt comparison. You would not want a movie that's about Chinese people being acted by people who are Indian. That wouldn't make any sense. You're trying to make your brain or your imagination stretch further than it's capable of. But because it like looks, like, because tick that diversity checkbox, and it's like, oh my god, it's so progressive. You're doing like such a brave thing. No, you're doing a stupid thing. Okay, when I want to watch a movie set during medieval England period with knights and shining armor and like fair maidens and everything like that, I expect most, if not all of them, to be white. I don't expect a person of color. I mean, like, maybe on a rare occasion, like a Robin Hood one, or no. I'm thinking of Gladiator, the first one. It has Diamond Hanzo in it. You can probably let that one slide, but is not the same, because that was made in a time where diversity was a lot more organic. Diamond Hanzo proved himself as an actor, and he auditioned, and he was casted in a supporting role of one of the best movies in history. But it's a vast, stark difference if you have, like, Bridgerton, where it's like a multi-mix of races, and it's kind of like, well, wait, what are you doing? You could easily make that slide if maybe one of them were black. Maybe two. But you got like a multi-ethnic kind of stuff going on in a time period where it's supposed to be all one particular race. But you're only doing this to white people because there's like an easy scapegoat and easy to hate kind of thing. And it's like, who cares? They ain't gonna say nothing because they're gonna look like racists. Like, no, they gotta have that stuff too. Okay? Especially when it's like the backdrop is England, whereas a vast majority of it is white, where you got Vikings, the French Musketeer, you got the medieval knights, you got like the Scottish warriors, like William Wallace and stuff like that. It's just like they have done stuff. It's only fair. It's like you can't just revise history to fit your quote unquote modern sensibilities just to under the guise of progressivism. It's just certain things that you gotta let certain people have. There's certain things that's only meant for Asian people. There's certain things only meant for black people. There are certain things that gotta be for white people. It's like James Bond. That's like it's culturally written for a white British male fantasy. You gotta let them have it. It's only right. Because at a point, it's starting to become stingy.
You can focus less on the specifics of a character's skin tone or features, and more on the actor's talent in conveying the persona of the character, of having the skill and the certain X factor to capture the spirit, the essence of the character, to convey their attitude, their presence, and their style. This is a sympathetic argument, and if an aspiring actor of color makes it, I'll hear them out in good faith, because they're wanting to channel and showcase their hard work and talent. After all, there will be instances where you might see someone of color audition for a role and their portrayal outclasses the other hopefuls. It's okay to acknowledge that, whilst also sticking to first principles.
Yeah, as far as like the example, like I mentioned about like Dama Hanzo and Gladiator, you also got like Michael Clark Duncan who plays like the Kingpin in the Ben Affleck's Daredevil film. Once again, this is way before it was like a mandate in place that you had to have like a certain amount of races or genders involved in every project almost every project imaginable, because you believed on good faith that not only he's a right proper size for somebody like the Kingpin, but he has an opposing a presence, and we know that Michael Clark Duncan is an amazing performer that supersedes the fact that he's playing a person in the comics that's a white person. Not saying there still wouldn't have been like backlash or whatever like that. There's always going to be that small fraction that wasn't going to probably watch it, and they're always going to be lose their minds. But it's still like a small part of the population. This is before social media kind of really blew up. But of course, it's up to the actor and the director and the casting director to make sure that they hired the person good for the job. So when he puts out that performance, it kind of shuts those naysayers up because they've proven themselves. But you're just doing it because it looks good on paper and you can get in those award shows, then you're not operating on good faith. Irregardless of if the actor might be good or not, it's like, or which they most of the time nowadays they're not, but it's just, okay, we can see the tick boxing here. It's like, that's what I saw like from like the second episode, the Acolyte, went in that little like bazaar or whatever, where that woman was about to poison that guy, and it's like all I see is every race imaginable in that street. It's like, okay, there's an Indian boy, there's like a fat person, there's like clearly tons of women, there's an Indian person here, there's like a Chinese person there. It's like you can like point out everybody and like probably like me two white male people, and maybe one of them is straight. That's just like, oh god, it's cringy, and it's like you're not hiring for any kind of basis of acting capabilities alone. You're not.
Historical cohesion should be the abiding consideration. This is the principle I'll be returning to.
And the Bridgerton is pretty much like a glorified play. Plays are vastly different. You can probably get away with it in a play, like you see like the Hamilton crap, but when you actually in like the silver screen or on TV, that's a vastly different animal. You really gotta sell, or at least, well, when people find out, then the jig is up. You wasn't being authentic. You just like, clearly was like, doing like a mandate. It's like mostly people are probably actually good at the acting job, but it's just like clearly it's like, especially the background characters is like what are we doing? Even like you got the live action Little Mermaid, or even like something like the live action Beauty and the Beast. You saw like the Market Square, and you see all these races dancing together, and it's like, what time period do you think these things are set in? What the majority of the race will look like? It's not a play. You cannot get away what you could do in a play that when it comes to a movie. You can't. In my opinion, you can't. And I think a lot of people would agree. You cannot do it the same way. A play is one thing. A play is like Broadway. It's only come up every once in a blue moon, and like you can get away with certain things, but it's just you can't like do certain things the same way.
Because a production makes an implicit agreement with its audience about a coherent world it's constructing, and that agreement should apply to the.
As a matter of fact, and they've been a lot. I'm pretty sure people have, put up tons of posts of all like race swap characters in the past. Let's give you a fair 7 years. It's a ton. It's egregiously a lot. And most of it, I guarantee you, was on purpose. Just to infuriate people that you didn't need to infuriate. Only just to do it. Just like you're trying to stick it to somebody because, like, you're trying to stick it to the incels because, like, they, dare to, challenge your woke sensibilities. They tell you it's like, that's not reality. That you've been kind of like a pighead, smug a-hole.
Past within it. The argument from lived culture. The idea here is that if someone were born and raised in Wolverhampton or Bristol, maybe didn't really have much connection with an immigrant heritage, and every formative experience and cultural reference growing up was basically as authentic as the rest of their school contemporaries, and then their acting cohort, then skin tone or ethnicity becomes such a secondary consideration at that point that it hardly needs alluding to. If they grew up with the English and drama syllabus the education system got them to learn, they've shared equally in those texts from a formative age and got an A-level for being able to intuitively engage with the texts. Why shouldn't they be able to participate in it fully, to devote themselves to bringing those texts they connected with to life on stage or screen? This also has a they connected with to life on stage, to devote themselves, be able to participate in it fully.
Look at this. Look at the Asian person, a couple of Asian people, a black woman, like 3 black women, 2 white women, 1 white guy.
To devote themselves to bringing those.
Look at this. You maybe be able to get away with this if it was like an original Disney Channel movie or something. Maybe. But, my God, it's popular. Why? Look at this. Culturally, it does not make any sense.
Texts they connected with to life on stage.
Maybe you can get away with like a few of these, maybe, but it's like, but the bulk of the cast should be white people. I'm sorry, it's not racist to say it.
Screen. This also has a fair bit of merit because it's speaking to lived, shared experience, which then gets starkly undermined. If someone is depicting a character who was quintessentially English and they themselves grew up in landscapes and communities intrinsically English, then it would make sense, in theory, to put that intrinsic aspect at the forefront. But we're talking about roles that are a differently constituted historical Englishness.
Why can't we, like, black people just, make our own thing? Or, gay people make their own thing? If you want to cast, like our own original thing, not like, take an IP and try to implant your stuff on it. I'm talking like, make your own thing and let the chips fall where they may. If you put in like some good quality content, some good writing, like hire people on merits alone and let the chips fall where they may, you might have something there. Then you can have something you can call your own, and it wasn't some glorified checkbox kind of thing. But no, it's like you want to do revisionist history. You're girl boss and everything. You feminize every little thing. It's just like, oh my God, it's just weird. Kind of feels like the last like good period piece. I wouldn't say a period piece, but I look in that kind of background type of vibe. Is probably like Game of Thrones, where you do have like people of color, but it isn't like surrounding every little thing. because it's like, this whole kind of medieval type of look to it is by and large, should be filled with white people. And that's what I expect. That's what we all should expect. Just like if I want to like the Woman King, I don't want to see any other color but a black person there. I think that's fair. I didn't see the Woman King. I'm pretty sure is like got like the colonizers, the white people coming in to do what they're gonna do. But beyond that, which is a whole nother personal issue of mine, because I'm getting sick of this whole re-victimization of people, and this whole pretty much torture corn when it comes to black people. It's like us in the most re-traumatizing light imaginable, instead of something good that isn't got to be something about racism or segregation, or any Nazis or skinheads or things that turmoil that we've been through in the past. We got to keep rehashing it like this is the only part of our lives that Hollywood can talk about. It's like, okay, can we just have a movie or a TV show where black people are just being normal? None of so missing fathers or struggle love or anything like that nonsense. It's not that hard.
One where there were different cultural frames of reference that have basic contours, and such actors, for all their talent, just don't fit with adequate coherence within those contours. The argument is sympathetic, but it doesn't override the principle. The historical world the production is constructing still has to hold.
Do you want to take a second to touch on something that I think is really important? I'm a huge
education. If such aspiring actors had no issues playing such roles in university courses, practical modules, junior productions, even repertory theatre, then where is the strange socio-cultural membrane that separates things? The moment they step outside a college campus? The moment they progress beyond community theatre? Why wouldn't that membrane feel ambiguous and arbitrary, an invisible hand saying, this far is okay for playing such roles, but not further? You're legitimate up to here, but not here? Especially if you'd won plaudits and rave reviews for depictions of such characters. This is another sympathetic argument. But first off, historical dramas aren't the be-all and end-all of acting. Shakespeare is more universalist, as opposed to the last 2 or 3 centuries of stricter societal and imperial coding. Shakespeare's characters exist in a world that is already culturally and geographically scrambled. Othello was set between Venice and Cyprus. The Merchant of Venice features a Moroccan prince. Antony and Cleopatra spans Rome and Egypt. I've seen actors of color play Oberon beautifully. The plays were written for a theatre that was already, by design, a space of transformation and impersonation. So the plasticity argument actually has real intellectual purchase when applied sometimes to Shakespeare, which is exactly why it becomes dangerous when it gets generalized from Shakespeare to the entire canon. The logic drifts, almost unnoticed, into being applied to a Thomas Hardy adaptation or a BBC Dickens serial, where the conditions that made it work have completely disappeared. Denzel Washington playing Macbeth? No problem. Ncuti Gatwa playing Edwardian London toff Algernon in The Importance of Being Earnest? You don't really have to buy into that. The argument from plausibility. It may seem unlikely that there was an interracial romance in Wuthering Heights, but it's not impossible that there was. It may have been unlikely that the fictional character of Pip might have fallen swooningly for an enigmatic black girl in Victorian England, but it's not impossible that he might have. It's highly unlikely there were black soldiers at the Battle of Hastings, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. The problem here is that, as a viewer, you're consciously engaged in a benefit-of-the-doubt dynamic. Not only are you pretending they're all actors and it's a take with cameras, you're also making accommodations, stretches, a kind of mental weighing up of the socio-cultural details on screen. When things feel contrived, Or, in the phrasing of the BBC report, clunky. That weighing up tips over. But the deeper issue is that the argument from plausibility quietly asks the audience to do the production's work for it through sheer goodwill, rather than the production earning its coherence. That's not a small ask, and it's not one the audience is compelled to take up at the behest of progressive showrunners. The argument from present enlightenment. In this thinking, the past can't do anything to change or atone for itself. It's static. But contemporary enlightened society is dynamic. Therefore, it becomes difficult resisting the temptation to apply hard-won enlightened values to the past, and the benefits of doing so might outweigh any contextual blurs about skin tone or identity. Diverse modern culture has reduced the extent to which people see race or color. People have learned to see the individual first and foremost. And therefore, it doesn't seem an unreasonable idea to transpose that enlightened person-first ethos into productions, especially when imagery of almost entirely white casts grates against multiculturalism and fairness of opportunity. So making just a slight progressive switch in mindset to imbue such productions with diverse faces seems to solve far more problems than it creates. Truly enlightened and educated minds aren't fragile. They can withstand, even embrace, the realities of the past, and ought to welcome scrupulous authenticity. As people who appreciate history, especially the lives of real figures, they should be drawn into wholly reconstructed worlds and vanished ages. That's a big part of the charm and the allure. The argument from making a living. Being strict about historical specificity has a tangible, material consequence for actors, especially young ones, who are entitled to believe there will be something like equal opportunity to make their mark and earn a respectable living. In this light, digging in heels over representation seems increasingly out of touch with...
And I feel bad for like the, good, honest, good faith on my part. I feel bad for certain young actors getting into this stuff, not the ones who want to toe the company line and the Rachel Zeglers and like whatever that girl's name from the Acolyte who played those twins. Aside from people like that, I feel bad for certain young actors because they as an actor you want to try to get like a role and like in like a big show or movie and as a role of a lifetime. So of course you're not gonna say anything or put up like any kind of fuss about it, and no one's gonna hold it against you. But you don't have to be on those kind of press tours doing those same junkets as everybody else have done in the past. It's like, if somebody asks you, how do you feel about like there being like a person of color in this in a role that's usually depicting like a white person, and you can just be generous about it and real. It's like, I and humble about it. Like, I understand. Like, I read the material and like I am super appreciative to take part in this role, and I study it, day in and day out. I want to honor it as the best of my capabilities. Hopefully you guys will see this and you will enjoy it. But hey, like, just give it a shot. You might be surprised, but I'm not going to hold it against you because, like, I know there's faithful fans of this material, but I just want you guys to at least, give it a chance. You might enjoy it. And kind of just leave it there. You don't need to, like, spiral or anything like that, but just show some level of humbleness and not try to speak the same jargon as everybody else did, like, you're only, if you don't watch it, you're racist, and blah blah blah, that same old stuff. Just do that. Be humble about it. Just be respectful of the material so that you have some reverence for it. So at the very least, people who watch like these junkets or watch these red carpets or whatever, these interviews, they can like watch it and say like, well, at least this person's being like a smart person, even though I might not like the show. At least this person is carrying themselves with some like level of class and humbleness and not like doing the exact same thing as all the other cast members are doing, because this shows some level of self-awareness. No one's gonna hold it against you being put in a role. Yeah, it would be like meant for a white person, but at least show some level of humbleness and respect that will take you far to a lot of people. And the studios behind the scenes isn't really doing these actors any favors, especially the directors any favors. That isn't towing the company line by giving these little talking points that pretty much put them in a line of fire for a lot of people's criticism. Like the director of the Marvels, pretty much just a face to a movie that's just like what's the word? Corporate mandated, kind of studio manufactured type of product. No sense of identity coming from the director herself. Nothing that says that's her work. It's like, yeah, it's a company thing. Clearly it's a company thing, and they're just want to pull this woman out. It's like, look, we got a black female director. Look at us, how progressive we are. And it's like, and then she getting like the brunt early on, but eventually we knew better. But early on, she got the brunt of the blame for that crap movie that was the Marvels. Until sometime later, people start to understand that, yeah, that's a very corporate mandated type of studio manufactured product that she has no say so. The script was pretty much written with not much, if any, kind of say so on her end of things. Maybe a couple of things, but by and large, that wasn't a product made by this director. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the woman's name, but that wasn't because I think she directed Candyman, the recent Candyman movie. But that wasn't like a product with her own fingers in the pot. It's like you look at something like Inception. You know that's like a Nolan-ism all over it. All over it. You look at something like Guardians of the Galaxy. You know that's a James Gunn product. You can see everything, his fingerprints all over it. Or you look at Pulp Fiction. You see that Quentin Tarantino's paws all over it. There was no studio interference whatsoever. Nothing was written by whatever studio those. There was nothing. Paramount wasn't. Mucking with it. Disney or whatever studio. Rarely, if ever, is mucking with it because they trust their director to put out like a solid product that would definitely guarantee butts and seats. But they didn't trust this director. Or like you might get a director that's towing the company in line, and it's like, oh well, we'll get on board with this whole progressivism because that's where we think the money is right now. But at the end of the day, they don't care. They want to make sure what gives them more money. That's why they backing off a lot of this DEI crap, because it's bankrupting a lot of their projects. It's not not a bad thing to hire people of color in certain projects, but you gotta make sure it's the right projects that make sense to have a person of color in them. If the backdrop of the movie or TV show is medieval England, it'd be on your best. It'll be in your best interest to make sure the vast majority of the casting is of people of a white nationality. I'm sorry. Maybe you can get away with a few people of color, but they definitely better bring it to warrant the race swap. As a matter of fact, in my personal opinion, the race swap better be for like some supporting kind of characters, nothing major. I don't want no black person to play William Shakespeare. That'd be freaking weird.
The lived realities and pressures of people who have done everything asked of them and more to make their way in a tough profession. Most extras or supporting artists on UK TV productions, including BBC period dramas.
It's like, tell me you're gay when you're without telling me you're gay. Oh God. It's like, we get it, dude. You're gay. Tone it down. Like, you're flaming all over the place. Jesus.
Paid a daily rate. The common range is £80 to maybe £150.
Like, I don't know the problem with the gay people. Like, I really don't. But it's just like these super flamboyant ones on these, projects in the past few years is kind of getting ridiculous now. It's like, we get it. You're gay. Like, I know gay people isn't like this super flamboyant. They're just normal people. That talks normally. They don't talk like, oh my god, oh my stars, oh my god. They don't talk like that. They talk like normal people. And it's like, it's pretty much caricatures. Matter of fact, that's definitely like homophobic if you really want to push it. It's like, you're like, a lot of these students are probably even more homophobic than the people that claim are homophobic, because why would you make these stereotypical caricatures of gay people in your projects, knowing full well that the vast majority of them don't act like this? It's weird.
Per day of filming for standard background work. That isn't nothing in a profession where work and experience is scarce, but it's minuscule in the grand scheme of things. A principal or major supporting
role. I do in that Starfleet Academy, like in a recent episode. I only saw a clip, but he's sitting there walking around, literally wearing a skirt or a dress or something. It's like, why? What purpose? Like I get it. The actor is gay, but he's supposed to be playing like a Klingon. This is bad enough he's already gay. We kind of expected that to happen, but you don't need to put a hat on a hat about it. It's like by having him walk around in a skirt. Golly.
Role in a BBC historical drama is real work. £30,000 to maybe £120,000, with weeks or months of employment and eligibility for awards attention. The problem is what kind of signal ahistorical casting sends. The role is rarely read purely as performance. On the other hand, when an actor breaks out in contemporary drama, genre television, comedy, or modern literary adaptations, the signal is cleaner. Audiences accepted this actor on their own terms. Time, money, and institutional attention spent forcing representational fixes into Georgian courts, Tudor palaces, and Regency drawing rooms is time not spent developing contemporary stories, historically accurate Black British histories, and roles written for black actors, not retrofitted onto white ones. Now, after going through all the incentives for colorblind casting, race swapping, and inclusivity, we can now turn our attention to a couple of important disincentives. Tacky, gaudy stuff like Bridgerton is set in a historical Regency England and casts black and mixed-race actors, but no one takes that candy-coloured light entertainment seriously. It's Regency-themed Mills and Boon. Its ahistoricity is kind of the gist. But it leads to a further question, and I want to pose it as conscientiously as I can. If you grew up a person of color, with manifold tensions around identity, place, balancing of two cultures, and you inhabit a contemporary world of vibrant cross-cultural currents and of rich and unique stories touched with melancholy, exhilaration, incredulity, and marginalization that deserve to be shaped and expressed by those who live them, why would you want to be dressed up in a frilly frock coat and breeches on a soundstage outside a Victorian mansion, affecting to be a nobleman, or in a corset, pretending to be a Georgian courtesan or debutante? Setting aside career credits, industry visibility, or contracts, just on its own terms, why would you want to play roles that are ahistorical and in a strange sense patronizing? Because such figures never existed. The power structures of imperial finance underpinning many of those archetypes stemming from structures and systems of power that would have been to the detriment of people of color. Why would you want to do that? Because in productions like Bridgerton, black actors aren't really playing black characters. They're playing pastiches of white characters. The BBC report didn't reveal a scandal. It revealed a consensus, one that had quietly existed for years among the people actually doing the work, on both sides of the camera, and across every demographic in the room. The arguments for ahistorical casting weren't all stupid. Some were genuinely sympathetic. But sympathy isn't a storytelling principle, and good intentions don't make good television. The contract a production makes with its audience is simple. Show us a world that holds. When it doesn't, no amount of progressive goodwill can paper over the crack. The audience feels it. And now, finally, the institution has admitted it too. By the way, all my novels are now up on Amazon.
Yeah, like a good one on Echo Chamberlain. Like I said, I don't want to harp on it too much at this point, but it's just that, yeah, it's not saying that you can't cast certain people of color for a like that's typically meant for like a white character in this particular drama or whatever. But you'd be hard pressed to see that in the reverse, because that will look poorly and you'll get massive backlash for it. But it's only like okay to just kind of erase, completely, or do this revisionist history completely on, characters that's meant for obviously for a white person, because the product was written by white people from a white perspective. Like it's just like you take something like James Bond, Ian Fleming, a white man written a male-centered content like about a British suave martini drinking lady banging super spy that goes after the bad guys for Queen and Country. And it's not saying you can't have black British people in certain roles, but when it comes to the major roles, then there's like you can get away with Moneypenny. I think but mostly because the actress is a proven actress who outshines the role that would be depicted for a white person. But he only can get away with it so many times with only so many characters. There are certain things that you got to. It feels disingenuous, or it feels like, I'm sorry, reverse racism. It is, because it's like certain people just don't care if a white person's history gets completely overshadowed or erased by including like that Viking leader from the Viking TV show, putting like a big black woman in that role of a person that's a character is like a white male. I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of guys auditioned for that particular role, but for some reason you think it was like a necessity to cast this black actress in a role clearly meant for a white male figure in the historical period of a Viking age in Norwegian lands. And people, there's certain people bringing their backs mentally and spiritually, every illegally, to try to make an excuse to make it make sense. And you're asking too much for the audience to suspend their disbelief of it. You can't rely on that. You got to put in the, like Echo said, you got to put in the effort on your end to make us believe it. I can believe Jamie Foxx as Electro because the writing material allowed that to make it make sense for me to buy into that. The writing material backs it up, and the actor backed it up to allow me to believe a white character, a character is clearly almost always. Not almost always, it's definitely always depicted as a white person, but I definitely buy Jamie Foxx as Electro because he put in the work and the writing backed it up. Same thing with Michael Clark Duncan as the Kingpin. The writing was there and the actor backed it up. But also, there wasn't a mandate centered around all that stuff. They trusted the director. They trusted the audience. Everything worked in perfect synergy. You look at Bridgerton, that's the exact opposite. It's weird. It's like... I don't understand how anybody can even buy into that. It shouldn't have gotten as many seasons as it did. people look on that stuff. It's like, why is this entertaining at all? Clearly, it's a girls' brand, so they love just the drama of it. Most of them ain't thinking too hard about like the historical accuracies. They just want to see like the drama and who's sleeping with whom and all this other crap. But it's just like when I want to look at like something like, Vikings or Game of Thrones or Gladiator, is a male brand, and you want to see like some level of historical accuracy, and hopefully the people behind the scenes are mindful of that and give us what like we're expecting to see. Putting up the shields and swords and fighting and saving the damsel and all this other stuff. But also, if you put in like an historical period, you gotta have some level of accuracy behind it for us to buy into whatever it is that you're selling on the front end. Okay, I don't want to look at something like Gladiator and walking out why did I come see basically a Burger King Kids Club version of a San Francisco college campus. Anyway, I'm curious to know what you guys think. And if you've seen Bridgerton, do you agree that they kind of overdid it with this whole race swapping? Because, like I said, race swapping is not inherently a bad thing, but you really got to pick and choose your moments. But like I said, in recent years, they've been overdoing it. Not even recent years. It's been like darn near 10 years. They've been overdoing it a lot. A lot. And I kind of feel bad for white people because there's certain things that does need to be belong to them. Just like there's certain things that only belong to black people. Very rarely things should be mixed. As a person of color, you should be a little bit offended. Like why couldn't we get our own stuff? Why you gotta put us in European or Victorian era, aristocratic little formats that isn't meant for us? And not only that, but you put us in the shoes of a white person to live a life as a white people instead of just making something that's like, you look at something like Sinners. Clearly, like, a lot of it's meant for black people, and you walk through like most of those actors' shoes, they're in the shoes of black people. They can really strut their stuff as black people. They they got the attitude, the swagger, the backdrop. It all makes sense. Even when you get those like Asian people and obviously the certain white people, given the backdrop, it makes sense for those to be there. But if you start adding like an Indian person and a paraplegic, and then you start adding in like I don't know, it's like some Australians. I don't know. This is like just start adding in every ethnic group that you can imagine, just to do the same quota fill. Then Sinners wouldn't have been getting all the accolades as it's been getting, because it will be eye rolly, just like Bridgerton is very eye rolly, like Star Trek Starfleet Academy is very eye rolly. We seriously need to backpedal and tone this crap way down. That is my opinion. But anyway, I'm curious to know what you guys think, and I will see you guys later.